Oh, Kels, thank you so much. Well, with COVID-19 forcing many workers to stay home, lots of people have questions about what's allowed and what isn't. Joining me now is employment lawyer Daniel Lublin. Good to have you with us again via Skype. So that is our practice of social distancing. Let's begin with this. If you have service providers coming into your home that you employ, maybe someone like a nanny or other caregiver, what questions are you allowed to ask them when it comes to assessing their risk of having or spreading COVID-19?
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me. Let's start with the basic questions. First, are you exhibiting any symptoms of the illness? Seems basic, but that is the first question that should be asked. The second, have you come into close personal contact with anyone who's demonstrating any of the symptoms? Third, have you traveled to an affected area? Fourth, have you been in close personal contact with anyone who's traveled to an affected area? And this is a situation that's rapidly changing. I think the next question that probably can and should be asked is, have you traveled internationally in the last 2 weeks?
Okay, so it sounds like we are allowed to ask those questions of people who we employ. Now, can you actually ask for proof if there is a suspected case of one of your employees, rather?
Well, in normal circumstances, an employer has the right to ask you to produce a doctor's letter if you need to stay away from work for a period of time. That's all about to go out the window. First, last night I read that the government in Ontario is drafting legislation that would abolish the employer's right to request a sick note if you have to stay home. And second, given everything that's changing rapidly, I don't think employers are going to force employees to go to the doctor to get a note to stay home right now. That's about to go out the window.
Okay, this is a big one for a lot of people. Do you still, if you are an employer, have to pay an employee who cannot work because they are self-isolating or, worse yet, have been infected?
Okay, we need to separate this question into two buckets. So the first is bucket A, individuals who are sick or who are required to self-isolate. Those individuals technically at this time do not need to be paid. In bucket B, we have everybody else. If an employer shuts down or tells employees not to come into work, and those employees are ready, willing, capable, and able to work, at least for the short term, they should be paid as long as they can be.
So then what if you still choose to send someone home as a precaution? What does that mean for pay?
Well, if somebody's answering yes to any of those red flag questions, I think you can probably justify not paying them until we determine what's happened. I will say this. If an employer overreaches or overreacts, not only should they technically be on the hook to pay that salary, they may be on the hook for other damages.
Okay, so what is your last word of advice for an employer? We know that the majority of businesses in this country are small and medium-sized businesses. You're talking to an employer. What is your one piece of advice as we go through really this unprecedented time?
Number one, don't panic. Number two is I think we have to talk about in the workplace relationship, softening the curve as well, which means instead of layoffs, which I expect are going to happen this week, we probably should try to deal with better arrangements, remote work, or reduced hours to the extent we can. I just think we can't panic right now.
Daniel, great advice, sobering advice during this difficult time. We really appreciate your perspective.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.